Today we are going to start with the vestibular apparatus. So vestibular apparatus. This vestibular apparatus, it is located in the bony labyrinth. Bony labyrinth is usually located present in the petrous portion of the temporal bone. In the petrous portion of the temporal bone, there is a presence of this labyrinth. The labyrinth is present, that is, there is a bony labyrinth and a membranous labyrinth. Now this bony labyrinth, it is consists of a bony segment, that is the semicircular canal, and the utricles and the saccule. Now inside this bony labyrinth, there is a presence of the membranous labyrinth. Now the component of this membranous labyrinth is consists of a saccular structure, that is utricles, saccules, and three semicircular canal and a coil tube. This coil tube is called as the cochlea. Yes, what happens? With the vestibular apparatus. Now this vestibular apparatus, it is a part of the labyrinth, and this labyrinth, it is located in the petrous portion of the temporal bone. Now in this petrous portion of the temporal bone, there is a presence of a bony labyrinth, and inside this bony labyrinth, there is a presence of a membranous labyrinth. Now this bony labyrinth, it is mainly consists of a coil structure, and this coil structure in which the membranous labyrinth is being located. Now the membranous labyrinth, the components of this membranous labyrinth, it has got two main components, that is the vestibular apparatus and the cochlea. Now the vestibular apparatus, it consists of a enlarged two sac-like structure called as utricles and saccule and three semicircular canal. And these three semicircular canal in turn will be in connection with the cochlea. So this parts, the cochlea is mainly a sensory organ for the hearing, whereas the vestibular apparatus, it is mainly consists of semicircular canal and utricles and saccule. Its main function is helping in the equilibrium mechanism. So it forms as an integral part of the equilibrium mechanism. Now the membranous labyrinth, it is filled with a fluid which is called as endolymphatic fluid, and it is separated by the bony labyrinth by perilymph. Now this utricles and saccule. So the small enlarged sac-like structure is called as utricle, and one more enlarged sac-like structure is present, that is called as saccule. Both this utricle and saccule together, it is called as otolith organ. Otolith means a presence of stone or a stone-like structure. In this utricle and saccule, the receptor consists of small crystals that are called as it is present in the auditory or the canal, it is called as otolith. Now the utricle, it is a larger of the two sac. It's open, that is the semicircular canal open in it, and it is connected with the saccule by means of a duct called as endolymphatic duct. The saccule is globular sac and it is connected to the cochlea. Now this cochlea is mainly having a coil structure. It is 2.5 coil tubes are being present, and its main function is for the hearing. Now it is connected with the cochlea by means of ductus reunion. So the receptor organ which is been located in the utricle and the saccule, it is called as macula. It is called as macula. Now this is a structure of the macula. The macula, it is a neuroepithelial ridge. So this neuroepithelium ridge is present inside the utricle as well as the saccule. Now the arrangement of this macula is such that in case of the utricle, it is arranged in a horizontal, it is present in horizontal direction, whereas in the saccule, it is present in a vertical direction. Now inside this macula or the rich neuroepithelial ridge, there is a presence of small hair-like structures or the small hairs. And inside this hair, there is presence of stuff of the cilium. So you can see this individual hair. So these are the hair cells, and in this hair cell, they are presence of stuff of the cilia. These cilia are having a typical arrangement, and above this cilia there is the presence of a gelatinous material, and on this gelatinous material there is the presence of small crystals of calcium carbonate. And as these crystals of calcium carbonate are located above the gelatinous layer, these crystals are called as otolith. So whenever we are bending our head, this is a main function of the utricle, is to maintain the or to locate the position of the head with response to the gravity. So when the head is bending in a forward or a backward direction, it will stimulate the macula of utricles. Similarly, when we are bending the head on the sideway, on the lateral direction, it will stimulate the macula of saccule. So structure of macula, it is a projecting ridge of sensory area slightly more than 2 mm in diameter. It is a neuroepithelium formed by the hair cells. These hair cells are mechanoreceptors, and the supporting cells are present around the hair cell. Now inside these hair cells or the macula, there is a presence of otolith membrane. This otolith membrane is a flat gelatinous membrane covering the cilia of the hair cell. The bases and the side of the hair cell will synapse with the 8th cranial nerve, which is called as vestibulocochlear nerve. So this vestibulocochlear nerve, it has got two components, that is the vestibular component and the cochlear component. Then in this otolith membrane, it also contains crystals of calcium carbonate called as otolith or statoconium. It is also called as otoconium. So this statoconium, the specific gravity is slightly 3 times more than the surrounding tissue. This is the reason when we bend in forward direction or a backward direction, this otolith will be moving in a opposite direction, and this will cause stimulation of the cilia which are embedded in the gelatinous membrane and will lead to the generation of action potential. Now this macula of the utricle is directed horizontally and the hair cells are present in a vertical plane. Whereas the macula of the saccule, it is directed vertically and the hair cells are present in a horizontal plane. And this is the reason why the stimulation. So you can see here the macula of the utricles, it is present in horizontal direction and the hair cells are present in the vertical direction. Similarly, in the saccule, the macula is present in the vertical direction and the hair cells are horizontally placed. And the arrangement of this hair cells or the macula will help in detecting the direction or bending of the head. So whenever we bend forward or backward, that is forward and backward tilt of the head will stimulate macula of the utricles, whereas the lateral bending of the head will stimulate the macula of saccule. Now the mode of action of these hair cells, whenever due to the weight of the otolith, when we are bending in a forward direction, the otolith due to its weight will be bending in a backward direction. Now because of this otolith or the statoconium, these are the calcium carbonate crystals, it will be going backward. This will lead to the distortion in the position of the cilia. So the cilia will be bending, and as the cilia are bending, it will exert the pull on the hair cells. Whenever it exerts the pull on the hair cell, there occurs distortion of the hair cell leading to excitation. Now this is a diagrammatic representation how this depolarization and hyperpolarization in the hair cell is being taking place. Now we have seen that is a sensory epithelium and these are the hair cells. This is a single hair cells having a synaptic connection with the vestibular component of the vestibular cochlear nerve. Now at the base of this hair cell, it is forming a synaptic connection with the nerve, and at the top this single hair cell will have a tuft of cilium. Now, this cilium arrangement is such that there is one large single long cilium. This large single long cilium is called as kinocilium. This is single longest flexible and located at one edge of the hair cell. Then there are different small ciliums. That is, the height of the cilium will be go on increasing as it passes towards the kinocilium. These cilia are called as stereocilia. There are almost 60 to 100 stiff graded length longer than the kinocilium. That is, they will be increasing in size till it reaches the kinocilium. These stereocilia are being attached at the top by means of a filamentous attachment. So once stereocilia is attached to the second and the second to the third, and in this way the last one is attached to the kinocilium. Now whenever there is a distortion in the cilium due to the weight of the statoconium, this cilia are embedded in the gelatinous membrane. Now as we tilt in a forward direction, this statoconium will be moving in a backward direction, and because of the weight it will be pulling the kinocilium in an outward direction. Now when the kinocilium is moving in an outward direction, it will pull all the stereocilia in its direction. So the movement of the kinocilium in outward direction will cause opening of the channels which are present at the base of stereocilia and the kinocilium. This will cause opening of the potassium channels and the calcium channels. Because of the opening of the potassium channel and the calcium channels, there will be increase in the polarity leading to depolarization. Now when this kinocilium and the stereocilia are moving in an inward direction, it will cause closure of this channels present at the base, leading to hyperpolarization. So the structure of the hair cell, kinocilia, it is a single last cilia located towards one side. Stereocilia, these are small, becomes progressively taller towards the kinocilia. Minute filamentous attachment is present at between the cilium and the kinocilium. The movement in the direction of the kinocilium causes depolarization, and the movement away from the kinocilium causes repolarization or hyperpolarization. And at the base of the hair cell, it forms the synaptic connection. Now the semicircular canal. These semicircular canal, these are C-shaped canals, which will be, there are 3 in number, the anterior, posterior and horizontal. Now the arrangement of the canal is such that at one end there is a dilatation, and this dilated part is called as the ampulla of the canal. So there are 3 ampulla, and each canal is being present in such a way that they are perpendicular to each other. Means both the ear, when the head is being tilted at an angle of 30 degrees, the anterior semicircular canal of the right side will be in same plane with the posterior semicircular canal of the left side. Similarly, the anterior semicircular canal of the left ear will be in the same plane of the posterior semicircular canal of the right side, whereas the horizontal semicircular canal are always in the parallel to each other. Now the receptor which is being present in the semicircular canal, it is located in the ampulla, and that receptor is called as crista ampullaris. Now the structure of the crista ampullaris is such that the gelatinous membrane which is being present in the crista ampullaris, it is elastic in nature. Now whenever this hair cells when the head is rotating, or when the head is in rotation position or in angular acceleration, the cupula which is been present in the crista ampullaris will be getting stimulated due to the fluid which is surrounding the crista ampullaris. So as we all know, there is a endolymphatic fluid which is being present inside the semicircular canal. Now when the head is rotating, this will the same function, that is here also there is the presence of the hair cells, and inside the hair cell the single hair cell will have a stuff of cilium, but in the gelatinous membrane or the cupula there will be absence of otolith, that is statoconium. The calcium carbonate crystals are absent in the crista ampullaris. So this stimulation of the crista ampullaris is slightly different from the macula of utricle and saccule. So this is again, the cupula is a dome-shaped mass of the gelatinous material and the hair cells are embedded in it. Now whenever the head is rotating, now as I said, this crista ampullaris is elastic in nature, means whenever there is a beginning of the rotation, this cupula will be getting stimulated, and once again due to its elastic nature it will come back to the normal position. Now this is a left cupula and this is the right cupula. Now when we are rotating the head from right to left, what happened? Due to the rotation from right to left, the fluid will be, the bony canal will be moving from right to left, and the inertia, due to the inertia, the fluid remains stationary and the rotation of the limb will be in an outward direction. Now as we are rotating from right to left, the bony, initially there will be excitation in the left cupula and inhibition in the right cupula. So what happened? As the fluid is moving, bony tubes are moving from right to left, and due to the inertia the fluid remains stationary. So the rotation of the tubes is from right to left, and you can see the arrow of the fluid. So as the fluid is moving in the opposite direction, it will cause pushing of the kinocilium of the left cupula in an outward direction and the right cupula in the inward direction. So whenever the kinocilium moves in an outward direction, it will lead to the depolarization, and whenever it is moving in an inward direction, it will lead to the repolarization. That is, excitation will be occurring in the left cupula and inhibition in the right cupula. This will be detecting the direction of rotation of the head at the beginning of the process. Now, after some time, when the rotation is continued, both the tube as well as the fluid will be moving in the same direction, and the cupula once again comes back to the normal position. So when the head stops rotating, there will be, the fluid will be rotating in an outward direction and the tubes will be stopped. So this will cause, that is, excitation of the right ear and inhibition of the left ear, and this way we are able to detect the direction of the rotation of the head. So by rotating or nodding of the head, shaking of the head, tilting of the head, this will cause stimulation for the cupula of the semicircular canals, and the mode of action is rotation of the head to the right semicircular canal rotate, endolimb due to inertia does not move, keep the sensation as if moving is in a reverse direction. So moving ampulla is pushed against the stationary endolimb, pressure gradient is created across the cupula, bending of the hair cells in an outward direction in the right ampulla, depolarization, and inward direction, that is repolarization. So reverse will be occurring whenever we stop the rotation. Now the vestibular pathway. Now whenever this information is being generated from the crista ampullaris as well as from the macula, it will go to the vestibular ganglia. From the vestibular ganglion, it will go to the medulla, that is, which is being present in the vestibular apparatus. The nucleus are mainly 4 types of nuclei are been present in the vestibular apparatus, that is the medial nucleus, inferior nucleus, superior nucleus and lateral nucleus. Now these connections will be going to the cerebellum, mainly the foculonodular lobe of the cerebellum through inferior cerebellar peduncle. The information will also go directly or via red nucleus and the nuclei of reticular formation to the cerebellum. That is, from cerebellum they may go to the red nucleus and reticular formation, and from here it will going back to the spinal cord in the form of vestibulospinal tract. There are 2 types of vestibulospinal tract, that is the lateral and the medial vestibulospinal tract, and this will help in maintaining the tone of the muscles in the anti-gravity action according to the position of the head. So they help in the postural reflex. Again, it will be going through the medial longitudinal bundle to the 3rd, 4th, 6th cranial nerve nuclei that will be helping in fixing the eyeball whenever the head is rotating or when we are nodding our head. Then via the medial lemniscus, it will go to the opposite thalamus and from thalamus to the sensory cortex. These are all the connections of the vestibular apparatus. So, vestibular apparatus, otolith organ and semicircular canal through the vestibular nerve, it will go to the cerebellum, and with the help of the cerebellum, it helps in control of balance. With the help of oculomotor nuclei, it helps in fixing the vision, that is eyeball fixation, and helps in visual reflexes. And through the vestibulospinal tract, that is both lateral and medial vestibulospinal tract, it will be going to the spinal motor neuron and helps in postural reflexes. So the functions of these are both, that is the medial vestibulospinal tract and the lateral vestibulospinal tract. So it will be medial vestibulospinal tract, which will be originating in the medial vestibular nuclei. Pathway is bilateral, but ipsilateral projection are more dense, and it will be innervating the cervical and the upper thoracic spinal cord, influencing mainly the neck and the axial muscles. Then the lateral vestibulospinal tract, it will be originating in the lateral vestibular nucleus. The pathway is uncrossed and crosses the entire length of the spinal cord. Located in the ventral funiculus, the pathway enables vestibular apparatus to influence the ipsilateral proximal muscles. The functions of the vestibular apparatus. The functions of otolith organ, that is utricles and the saccules. The otolith organ correct the position of the head and the posture of the body to maintain by giving rise to the apparent impulses which reflexly adapt the position of the trunk and the limb to that of the head. It helps in bringing about the coordinated movement of the eyeball to keep the vision fixed whenever the head is moving. That is, through the vestibulo-ocular reflex, the impulses will be going to the extraocular muscles of the eye and will help in fixation of the vision whenever we are in the linear acceleration. Then it helps in regulation of the posture and equilibrium through vestibulospinal tract. It helps in regulating the muscle tone, that is vestibular nucleus mainly stimulate the alpha motor neuron. Then the functions of the semicircular canal. Semicircular canal gives information about the rotation of the head, an appropriate mechanism to maintain the equilibrium whenever the body is doing rotational movement. It also helps in fixation, visual fixation via ascending connection to the cranial nerve nuclei during angular rotation, mainly through the vestibulo-ocular reflex. It helps in opticokinetic reflex, that is fixation of vision. Through the vestibulospinal tract and the medial longitudinal bundle, it helps in maintaining the tone in the anti-gravity muscle and coordinate the adjustments made by the limb and eyes in response to changes in the body position. Now the applied aspect, the vestibular dysfunctions usually leads the main applied aspects of whenever there is non-functioning or improper functioning of the vestibular apparatus, it leads to motion sickness, seasickness, Meniere's disease, and nystagmus. What is this motion sickness? Now we all have the common complaint whenever we are traveling in a vehicle. Few people may have a vertigo, nausea, vomiting. It is mainly due to this stimulation of the vestibular apparatus. So, motion sickness is usually seen due to excessive stimulation of the vestibular apparatus. It is a syndrome consisting of tendency to yawning, increased salivation, GIT discomfort, nausea, vomiting, pallor, headache, and in severe condition leading to vertigo and dizziness. It seems in all forms of travel where there is an irregular motion. Seasickness, it is usually seen due to excessive stimulation of vestibular apparatus and mainly seen in the person sailing in the ship. The motion sickness can be prevented by closing of the eyes as well as by keeping that is a cotton plug in the ear so that it will stop the stimulation of the vestibular apparatus. So overstimulation will be stopped and the symptoms can be relieved. In the Meniere's disease, it is mainly caused due to the distension of the membranous labyrinth, probably through hypersecretion. It is also associated with episode of abrupt and often severe dizziness or vertigo. The patient will also complain of tinnitus, which is called as ringing sensation in the ear, and bout of hearing loss. It is nystagmus. Nystagmus is defined as to and fro movement of the eyeballs. It is seen mainly in the labyrinthectomy, slow swaying movement toward the side of the lesion and quick towards the midline. So the eyeball is being moving. There will be jerky to and fro movement of the eyeball whenever we are in the angular rotation. So that is called as nystagmus. Now the clinical test to assess the function of the vestibular apparatus can be done separately on each side. So these tests are caloric test, post-rotatory nystagmus. This caloric test is when we are to irrigation of one ear with a warm saline, that is slightly the temperature that is plus or minus 7 degrees above the body temperature. The saline temperature is plus or minus 7 degrees above the body temperature of the patient, and that will be irrigated in the ear. And this warm saline, when we are pushing inside the ear, this will be producing the nystagmus, that is the jerky movement of the eyeball if the vestibular function is normal. Post-rotatory nystagmus, it is done when the person is asked to sit in the chair and that chair is allowed to rotate. So when the rotation is stopped, the nystagmus with fast component is in opposite direction of the rotation. So this is all about the today's lecture. We have learned about the various components of the vestibular apparatus, its function, its receptor, and the mechanism of functioning, that is what all functions the utricles and saccule does. Usually a long question is asked and sometimes the short notes are asked on the otolith organ, semicircular